Hello everyone and welcome on this cold autumn evening to the next episode of Red Embrace Hollywood. Last episode we've met the guy called Lazarus, who is both a vampire hunter and a cannibal, or actually a vampirinibal. That doesn't sound right, but he eats vampires to gain their powers and be able to kill even more vampires. And for some weird reason, today we're going to make a deal with him. Let's go. Alright, Lazarus, you've got yourself a deal. Interesting. I'm almost curious why you accepted, but I don't really want to know either. If I were you, I wouldn't waste time telling Charisse to explain everything. She'll just give you a watered-down excuse. Then we're finished here, aren't we? Leave. I've talked too much. His voice grew colder and he stared at me with even more distaste than before. Can I come back and see you again? That's weirdly clingy, I would say. Let's do it? Maybe he just wants a company, and if we will be nice to him, we won't kill us, because he's a vampire hunter and we probably should play a good boy around him. Why would I want to see you again? I didn't see that coming. You're a reminder of everything I lost. But what I want doesn't matter. I'm used to that. So just do whatever makes you happy. With those quiet words, he turned his back on me, stalking down the tunnel, leaving the partially eaten corpse behind. Retracing my steps, I returned to the sewer entrance I'd arrived from with Kedrick, though this time I was alone. But now the tunnels felt strangely empty, even lonely. Maybe it was because I knew the lurking presence nearby wasn't out to kill me, so the threat I'd sensed in the air had all but vanished. Charisse's car was still where Kedrick and I had left it, with the driver silently sitting inside. When I climbed in alone, he didn't say anything about my missing companion, and he didn't wait before taking off into the streets either. He knew. He's probably used to that already. The air freshener-scented lobby welcomed me back, almost shocking my senses. Some of the Iskari waiting around gave me looks as I walked by. They had to have noticed I was alone. I always dig this tune. It's so Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines-like. It's really cool. And at this rate, we'll... As soon as I stepped inside the meeting room, Charisse abruptly cut off her words to the agents. They both stared at me for a few moments, obviously trying to figure out what had happened. Vince. I see that Kedrick isn't with you. Charisse went silent for a short time, her eyes much more troubled and grave than usual. Then she glanced at the agent beside her, gesturing towards the door. If you'd allow us a moment, please. Of course. After a short nod, the man turned on his heel, swiftly making an exit. The killer, I presume you found them, then. When we were by ourselves, she addressed me with a low, worried murmur. Did you know it would be him? Lazarus? Lazarus? No, of course I didn't. I had considered the possibility, but I believed he was no longer a threat to us. Her face slowly darkened, expression flickering between disgust and worry. There is only one way for a vampire to increase their physical power, through the consumption of another vampire's flesh. However, just as our blood is poisonous to each other, the flesh is too, with some incredibly rare exceptions. Only a few vampires have the immunity to stomach either. But for humans, consuming our bodies gives them incredible, though only temporary, powers. That is how Lazarus grew so powerful. He had promised to change his ways after he became an agent, That was before you entered the scenario, however, and he disappeared. Why didn't you contact him after the mistake? I did contact him. There was a delay, yes, the circumstances had changed. But that sheer time span was no excuse for him to start hunting again, not after we'd made an agreement. But that was close. For a moment her voice sounded a little uneven, even shaky. But when she spoke again, it had returned to a more cool, collected tone. Now that he's delivered his message, I don't know whether he'll keep killing. However, I will have my agents remain on high alert now that we know what we're facing. You have done admirable work nonetheless. I won't forget your bravery and tenacity in escaping his clutches. From the brisk way she cleared her throat, it was obvious that she didn't want to discuss Lazarus any further. But before I forget, I plan to host a gathering tomorrow at Saturnalia, held in celebration of a few recent events, and in recognition of a certain turn of events. Charisse hesitated for a moment, something flickering through her eyes briefly. As of tonight, we officially no longer have open negotiations with the Mavar and the Golgotha. Fuck, the war is on. What happened? Suffice to say that, despite my best attempts at finding some kind of peaceful resolution, both Andre and Randall have refused to find common ground with this Carrie. Faint bitterness seeped into her aloof expression as she tucked a strand of hair behind her one ear. It's all moot now anyway, what's done is done. More importantly, the Iskari are in need of moral support and solidarity as we dive forward. That is my main intention in holding the party. I think it's a little bit dangerous to hold a party right now, right after this truce ended, you know? See to it that you're present. Not too strenuous a task, I should hope. I'll be there. What time does it start? Around 9, but the festivities will continue as long as Heath's supply of blood does. If you haven't noticed already, and life doesn't quell the desire for inebriation among some of us. Charisse rolled her eyes, sounding vaguely like an exasperated aunt. As long as you attend for a short period, that should be sufficient. My reasoning for wanting you there is quite simple. Your presence has steadily grown into a non-insignificant one, and you serve as an example of individual strength overcoming adversity, regardless of house. A vampire who can withstand all the ironies of fate and emerge stronger still is exactly what everyone needs to remain motivated in this dark hour. Needs to remain motivated. That one. Glancing towards the clock in her usual "this conversation is now over" fashion, Charisse pushed up her glasses and motioned towards the door. Now, I believe that is all. I expect to see you there tomorrow, Vince. Okay. It's fine. I don't want to party, but okay. Leaving the meeting room behind, I returned to the lobby. Despite the length of my sewer adventure, the sun hadn't begun to rise yet. I had enough time to visit somewhere, or else I could stay at the hotel. Go somewhere! Wow, so many places. I want to go to all the places. Let's start with the abattoir. It was a packed night at the club. I saw and sensed plenty of Iskari around, mingling with the unaware humans. Over in the lounge, a friendly-looking group stood chatting and laughing with each other, and when we briefly made eye contact, one of them nodded at me invitingly. Go talk with the Iskari. I slowly made my way over to the Iskari, who welcomed me into their group almost instantly. Wild, free-spirited and down-to-earth, they were much different from the more elegant vampires I usually saw at the hotel. But they weren't like the Mavar either. I glimpsed a dreamy, distant romance in their eyes, the same flower-chatted smiles I'd seen in old photographs. As we carried on a loud conversation over the music, I learned that they'd been partying since the LSD days of the 60s, which apparently saw an outbreak in vampirism. Back then, rumors spread that getting fed on was just an amazing new high, with all the young, over-eager vampires frequently drank too much from their partners. So instead of letting them die, they spread the condition like wildfire. I could imagine that. After they shared some of their history with me, the friendly Iskari invited me to dance. I decided to dance with them. I followed them out onto the dance floor, where we spent the next hour slamming and flailing to various gothic hits. Their dancing skills were all over the place, just like in Bloodlines, but nobody really seemed to care. They were just happy to be enjoying themselves, relishing the music the same way they had decades ago. Not so nice. Eventually the group dispersed to get drinks or wander off with their partners, but they thanked me for spending time with them. Drink at the bar! The bar was surprisingly quiet tonight. Most of the patrons seemed to be out on the dance floor. For a moment, I leaned against the counter, surveying the crowd for any interesting faces. Oh my, what a fine customer! You look like you may be interested in this special. A warm, soothing voice purred at me from close by. When I glanced around to search for the stores, I realized the bartender had sidled up to me. Perhaps you would allow me to serve you a drink, one that suits our morbid tastes. Unless, of course, you might wish to try my specialty pudding. I'm sorry, did you say pudding? Yes, pudding. I guarantee you have tasted nothing like it. Sanguinaccio dolce, the finest of blood, enhanced into a magnificent dessert. He gave a flourish with one hand, winking at me daringly. Would you care for a little sample? Yeah, sure, why not? Marvelous. I scour with an adventurous palate. My responsibility delighted the bartender, who beamed like Christmas had just come early. Then, holding up one finger for me to wait, he slipped over to the other end of the counter, reaching inside a small fridge. I heard him humming under his breath as he sauntered back, still absently shaking the mixer in his right hand. Here you are. The bartender slid a small bowl in front of me, filled with a thick red pudding and crowned by a little silver spoon. He watched me intently as I scooped out a small spoonful, bringing it to my lips. The cool, smooth texture slowly melted on my tongue, sweet and savory. It was almost unnervingly delicious, better than anything I tasted before, except for maybe David's blood. This... I feel like it's almost too good. Perfect response. Just what I love to hear. He gave me a long, rapturous look, his eyes shining brightly. Okay, what the hell is it? Is it like made of babies or something? Oh, by the way, please call me Dorian. I prefer to have a closer connection with special patrons. And I can tell you're quite special, my dearest Carrie. There's no need to pay either. The delight of practicing my art for a receptive palate is more than enough to satisfy me. Licking his lips, Dorian glanced down at my pudding with a hint of pride. In my eyes, blood isn't merely something to be sucked up for sustenance, nor gulped down from any mortal on the streets. We may have only one meal available to us as vampires, but there are an infinite number of ways to experience it. Infinite? How so? I'm so happy you asked, good patron. He paused, inhaling a deep breath, his expression melting into a tender look of someone describing their lover. My recipes aren't merely a combination of ingredients, but also draw from the nature of the blood itself. Everything from the human's diet to their preferences in music. Like resonance, I could say. As one tastes more and more variety of blood, one realizes that every human is certainly not created equal. One may develop a cultured palate, appreciating only blood with fine nuances. The most forbidden delight comes from blood taken in articulo mortis. Such rare but exquisite ecstasy. In articulo mortis, is like while dying? The rich fullness squeezed from a virgin's heart, the aromatic splendor of a vivisected dancer, divine drops that trickled from a severed head. I see. Dorian held the drink mixer to his cheek, stroking his fingers along the metal in slow caress. Of course, I have never procured any of those myself. I simply hear from acquaintances that they taste simply sublime. His elusive grin came with a warm chuckle before he started shaking his mixer again. May I ask what your thoughts and feelings are, my sweet patron? Wow. The last one. We are trying to be human in this particular playthrough, so I would say I really don't like it. I drink from blood packs as much as I can. Blood packs. I see. Perhaps I could procure some specialized packs for you. I can't stand the thought of you drinking the abhorrent swill they usually fill those plastic carcasses with. That is actually true. In the new Vampire the Masquerade setting, you need to have the Iron Gullet perk to be able to drink back blood. Because apparently, I think I said it in one of the previous episodes, I don't really remember, but just in case you guys don't remember this one, you have some additives added to the packed blood to make it stay fresh for longer, to basically preserve it for longer. So these additives make the blood undrinkable for most vampires, and only those with the Iron Gullet, the same ones who can drink the rancid blood, the old blood, the yucky blood from the freaking ground, yeah, these ones can drink the blood bags. But it's not like in Bloodlines 1 where blood bags were just, you know, available for everyone and everyone would be able to drink them. He looked faintly distressed for a moment, shaking his head with a little grimace. You are very young still. I'm curious how your taste will evolve over time, as mine have over the years. How did you become a vampire, Dorian? I always had something of a fear of growing old, foreseeing myself decay within the mirror over my years. Perhaps that's why my sire was drawn to me, and planked her fangs deep into my veins that fateful night. Dorian trailed off with a gentle sigh, as if the memory were more romantic than anything. When I moved here after being pulled into my marvelous life, I was drawn to the humble career of bartending. It was around that time that I became connoisseur of blood, shall we say. I started to appreciate its many exquisite themes and variations, the way it could be extracted for the best flavor. There are few places on earth with the fine variety of blood that Hollywood has. I have seen everything from the most refined to the most depraved, and they often overlap. I imagine I'll stay here for a time, but one day the veins and arteries of another city will call me away. A new supply of delights to exsanguinate. Exsanguinate, what a beautiful word. Oh! Oh my dear! I'm tempted, but we're supposed to be the good guy in this playthrough, so well, if you ever need a taste tester, you know who to call. Of course, there are quite a few new recipes I'd like to try. Although you'd have to come with a very adventurous palate and ask far fewer questions. Dorian slowly pulled the lid of his mixer, licking off a stray red droplet that landed on his thumb. Ah, some new customers have arrived. Imagine it's time I return to Roman coast. A pity, as there was so much more I wanted to share with you. With the next fine drink you happen to enjoy, I hope you might think of me. It's a nice guy. With that, Dorian gracefully stepped away, drifting over to the newly arrived group of humans with a faint sigh. I think when I'll be doing the Marcus playthrough, I'll be trying to be a little bit more evil. Because I think he wouldn't mind me banging other people, really. He will be very sad about it, but Marcus, I think it's fine. My first stated for now, I turned my focus back to the club's main hall. Well, nothing more to do, except for heading outside. So let's go, and let's visit other places. Because there are still many of them. I left the noisy interior of the club, returning to the street. Let's go to Saturnalia. I make my way to Saturnalia, where the glamour of downtown LA served as a stark contrast to my earlier sewer crawl. Hello. It seemed like a quiet night, although a few people lined the booths and were mingling in the corners. When I glanced past a group of Golgotha by the bar, I noticed Heath standing off to the one side, smoking a cigarette. A moment later, our eyes met, and he gave me a gentle smile. Let's go talk to him. I like his theme, like his music. You know, it's so nice and beautiful. Like, whenever he appears on the screen, I just feel very cozy. And I don't know if it's because he's so hot or is it because the music is so nice. The game is hypnotizing me. Vince. When I stepped up to the bar, he turned to greet me, snapping out his cigarette in an ashtray. You came by again. I'm so happy to see you. Maybe it was just my imagination, but his smile seemed slightly more forced than usual. Was there something you wanted to chat about? Is there anything I can ask him? Oh, there we go. What counts as beautiful in your eyes? Beautiful? Well, I love outward beauty as much as anyone else. Pretty eyes, soft lips, a body that's taken care of, tasteful clothes. Of course, I care about what's on the inside too. A kind, selfless heart. That's the most beautiful thing of all. But it's true that we judge our first impressions of appearance, even if we don't admit it to ourselves. It's just human nature. I always keep that in mind. What kind of future do you dream of when the war is over? A future where we can all be ourselves. I don't know what that might look like, but with the right leader, anything is possible. He gazed at me intently, rolling his shoulders in a gentle shrug. What are your thoughts on vampires and pop culture? I haven't read a lot of books on them, but I've seen a few movies. The recent film with Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, it's charming, I won't lie. I really liked it. Interview with the Vampire. It's a cool movie. And I understand the writer's choices, since there are so many things to romanticize about being a vampire, though I think a film made by one would be very different. Closer to Nosferatu, maybe, or the original Dracula. He glanced towards the movie posters on the opposite wall, exhaling a quiet laugh. About something else. About you... Do you know Andrei? Huh. Yes, he's very, very smart and very, very capable. I'm just never really sure what's going on inside his head. You met him before then? Not much. But he invited you to visit, didn't he? A lot of people don't trust him because of his private meetings and the place he lives. You might not want to mention it to Charisse. Something else. Can I ask about this again? No. Because I wanted to ask him about the comparison to Charisse, but that's fine. Very capable. So he was into Andrei, or his vision of the world. He did say though, oh my dearie, our boy might be Sabat. He just said, when I asked him about the dream future, that he just wants to be himself. And he's a vampire. He wants to be outed. Okay, you know what, guys? I have a feeling we gotta stick to Andrei in this one. We gotta go Sabat route with this boy. Holy shit! This just came down upon me, the realization that maybe the future with Charisse isn't meant to this guy. Alright, I'm just going to leave it like this, and I will think it over while we play, but yeah, that just came as a shock to me, so I need to process that. I met this guy, Lazarus, in the sewers. Lazarus? I think Charisse mentioned him a few times. She seemed a little warmer than usual whenever she brought his name up in the conversation. He's jealous. He hesitated briefly, digging his fingers into his scarf for a moment. But ever since around the time you returned, I haven't heard her say anything more about him. It might be for the best if we didn't discuss Lazarus here, though. I think Charisse kept quiet about him for a reason. Okay. That's all for now, I think. Alright. I hope I can see you again soon, Vince. Stay safe. He gave me a soft, wistful smile before pulling away, stepping towards the shelves to make a drink. It's a bad boy. I like this. I really like this little thing. Chat with the patrons, let's go. It seemed to be mostly Golgotha in the bar tonight, isolated vampires brooding to themselves or small groups chatting about things I couldn't understand. They watched me closely, but nobody seemed particularly interested in striking up a conversation. Just as I was about to give up and head somewhere else, I noticed a few vampires off in a darker, more secluded area of the bar, murmuring as they passed something around. But when I drew closer, pulled by my curiosity, I realized they were filling up syringes. needles gleaming with a deep red liquid. Bet you think we're pretty fucked up. One of them, a man who looked like he'd been turned in his late 40s, gave me a hoarse chuckle as I stepped closer. His eyes were dark and sunken, like two burned-out light bulbs on a sallow, gaunt face. A bunch of vampire junkies. Not very sexy, is it? Is it a normal thing, shooting up in the bar? Pretty normal. Nobody really cares as long as we're quiet. Let out another dry laugh, though his eyes never held a trace of humor. We don't do it for fun, if that's what you think. Just do it to stop the visions, otherwise they're always piling up. He pulled the burned-out cigarette from between his lips, using it to motion towards the needles. See those syringes? Got some morphine, Xanax, some antipsychotics to keep it all down, and some hard stuff we probably shouldn't be giving to the humans we drain. Gotta take it almost all the time, every day. That's awful, I'm sorry. You get used to it. Wake up, shoot up, get hungry, shoot up. Before you go out, shoot up. When you get back, shoot up. Before the sun rises, shoot up. A lot of them, the ones with the really bad visions, they almost go into a frenzy when they come off the high. Have to get that needle in them as soon as they can, before the visions come back. The man flicked his cigarette into the floor, where it joined a scattered dirt, blood droplets and ash. I think that's a pretty interesting concept to play a Malkavian this way, you know? Maybe not shooting up the blood per se, but drinking the blood from people on antidepressants, for example, just to quell your personal demons. I think that'd be pretty cool. For us, you either go crazy or you go crazy trying to act like you're normal. It's the way it's always been. After a long pause, he turned his lifeless stare over to my face, watching me numbly. Well, I'm gonna head into the back. You take care. Rubbing a hand along his forehead, the man turned to follow the other Golgotha into a side hallway. The sound of their dragging heels followed them out of sight, until finally that disappeared too. Let's leave. Damn, that's sad. It's a sad fate for a junkie vampire. I left the bar's quiet ambience, returning to the street. Oopsie, sorry for the sound. That was my bottle cap. Time had passed quickly and the night was already almost over. Time to head back. No! I want to go to other places too! Damn! Flipping off the lights, I gazed out the window into a sparkling panorama. It was so strange to think that if I hadn't been turned, this room would belong to Lazarus. Where would I have been right now? Still in Hollywood, chasing my dreams? Or if Hollywood rejected me, would I have ended up somewhere very different instead? With my cold cheek pressed to the pillow, I left another night of unsettling thoughts for the comforting arms of sleep. I sat on the foot of my bed, staring at my reflection in the black TV screen. My face stared back at me, the same as it always looked. It was about time for me to head to Saturnalia for the party, but I wasn't sure if Charisse and company were expecting me to appear groomed and primed up. It was a special occasion, and he was going to be there, presumably wearing his own face instead of River's. Groom and clean myself up thoroughly. I think that's something that he would want me to do. Stepping into the bathroom, I decided to spend some time making myself presentable. After wandering around sewers and graveyards, it was something of a dramatic shift to focus on my appearance. But once I was properly cleaned up and ready, I surprised myself with how striking I looked. If not less like a corpse, then at least one very lovingly prepared for an open casket funeral. However, when I left my room to head outside, Charisse's car wasn't waiting for me. She'd probably taken it herself. But she'd apparently hired and prepaid a taxi to ferry me there, since the driver hopped out and ushered me in as soon as I left the hotel. During the short ride, my thoughts slowly wandered towards Heath. When I'd left him the other night, it was like he'd been devastated by the news, and now Charisse was going to officially declare all chances of a truce to be dead. Would hearing that shatter him completely? Would he try to coax Charisse into a different solution? No matter what happened, it didn't seem like it would end prettily. As I stepped out of the taxi and approached the bar, I could hear chatter and laughter leaking from inside. Apparently the party had already started. Glamorous and important-looking vampires filled up every corner, sipping from wine glasses filled with red liquid. Most of them were dressed in high-end fashion, complete with the proudly reserved air of those who could afford it, so we actually dressed up to the occasion good. It was a strangely refined atmosphere for Saturnalia, a place that normally felt nostalgic and homey. Vince, just as I stepped inside, someone called my name, right next to my ear. My boy! It was Heath holding a small platter of drinks in one hand. You look incredible, like even more of a star than usual. His voice was calm and gentle as always, barely audible over the guests' chatter. But his normal smile didn't appear, not even as the moments passed by. Are you feeling okay, Heath? Yeah, I'm alright. Thanks for asking about me. It was obviously a lie, but he did seem grateful that I'd asked. Are you sure? You really don't seem okay. No, really, I'm sure. He picked at his scarf with his free hand, toying with the fabric. It's so strange, isn't it? Not so long ago, you and I were standing right here talking with the Golgotha. I just hope tonight ends better, with blood kept in the glasses, not spilled all over the floor. I think it'll be fine. No one here seems like the fighting type. They're not regular fighting, at least, but the mental one, totally. I'm sorry, Vince, but I should probably... As he spoke, I heard the bar's entrance swing open for a new arrival. At that moment, the whole room's atmosphere suddenly seemed to shift. People were edging away from the door, muttering quietly among themselves. When I glanced to see who'd stepped into the bar... Marcus! Marcus, who seemed unfazed by his cold welcome, strolled past us. I noticed a flood of varied looks following him, some outright aggressive, others cautiously fascinated. Fear of the unknown. He murmured beside me, watching Marcus disappear around the corner. Lovecraft, didn't he say that the unknown is mankind's greatest fear? And our fears attract us, pulling us in. I think Marcus understands that better than anyone. I wonder why he's here. Charisse might have asked him, or else he just showed up. He likes to do that. He slowly trailed off, his eyes never meeting mine. I'm sorry, but I should go serve these drinks. Maybe we can talk after the party. His smile was obviously forced. Already he was starting to shift away from me, like he was impatient to leave. Why don't you just tell me what's wrong? For a moment his eyes darted around in panic, before he let out a sigh of defeat like a child caught in a lie. I can't, not right now, I'm so sorry. As soon as everyone leaves, we can talk, I promise. Are you sure it can wait that long? Of course, yes, it's nothing to worry about, really. I'll see you later, Vince. Heath slipped into the crowd, swiftly disappearing amidst the various guests. He was acting so strangely. What could have been bothering him that much? If it was just negotiations breaking down, he could have surely told me about that. But it seemed like I was part of whatever was distressing him. Maybe it was related to that night in my hotel room? Mulling over my thoughts, I wandered up to the bar. It was fairly empty, since most of the vampires were flitting about. I was thinking about flitting or flirting, but flitting it is, about in groups. But a few moments after I settled down... Oh, pretty! A thin, finely dressed man slid into the bar stool beside me, propping his elbows on the counter and letting out a faint groan. Do you understand parties, or rather the point of these social interactions? It's all so confusing. Trust me, I don't like them any more than you do. Oh, I've heard about you. I figured you'd be quite popular in these things. Sounded like I'd only caught half of his reply. Had he trailed off or mumbled something and I'd missed it over the chatter? Oh, I'm so sorry. My name's Jasper. Smiled at me warmly, offering a slightly awkward nod. I'm not very adept in situations like these. Strangers everywhere, idle chit-chat. In fact, I'm only here because of my partner, buddy. Again, I only caught half of his reply. But this time he definitely hadn't opened his mouth for the other half. I think I'm horrible at socializing too, so I totally get it. That's rather uncommon for any scary, but I'm glad you... Jasper suddenly let out a soft gasp. Oh, how inconsiderate of me. I don't meet new people very often, so I sometimes... Suppose the best way to explain things would be reality and headspace are somewhat blurred for me. So quite naturally, half of my thoughts I can give voice to... He gestured to his head with a light chuckle, wordlessly filling in the gap. I do apologize for the inconvenience. Oh, it's fine, thanks for telling me. Oh dear, you must have been very confused, you probably still are. As Jasper's cheerful laughter faded into silence, our conversation stalled for a few moments. The chatter around us carried on. I noticed a number of glances aimed my way, studying me with more than passing curiosity. A few people even waved or tried to beckon me over, faces I'd never seen before in my life. By the way... Jasper spoke up again, but his voice was a little softer and more hesitant. I saw you speaking with that white-haired boy, what was his name again? Heath? For a while he used to have Everyone believed he was Sherry's favorite, not so much anymore though. Why? What happened? Oh, nothing specific happened. He shrugged, absently ruffling a hand through his hair. Was uprooted by the slightest breeze, so to speak. Most of us probably saw it coming, except for him. With a quiet, sympathetic sigh, Jasper rubbed a finger along his cheek. If I might offer a little insight, since it seems like you're close to him. No matter how much he loves you, if you shatter his illusions, I don't know if he'll forgive you. Cast aside order for chaos. What was the rest of that? If I may have your attention, a commanding voice suddenly echoed through the bar, which quickly grew hushed. All eyes flicked towards where Cherie stood, her glasses glinting as she surveyed the crowd before her. Jasper's attention was drawn to her too, cutting short whatever he was about to say. Tonight, as some of you already may know, marks an important occasion. Negotiation efforts with the other houses are no longer in motion. There were a few gasps, but mostly enthusiastic clapping came in response. I finally spotted Heath across the bar, but he didn't look surprised or even distressed. His glassy stare was only fixated on empty space. We have done everything in our power to compromise, to reach across the aisle, hoping that we might strengthen our coven rather than weaken it. But Randall and Andre, along with all their followers, have shown us they prioritize winning over the chance of unity. Soft murmurs of agreement and vehement nods met Cherie's words. And so, from this day forward, we will pour all of our efforts into defending against these destructive threats. A defense greatly bolstered by the help of a very recent arrival, Vince. As soon as Cherie mentioned my name, several people instantly looked towards me, and everyone else's gazes followed. Some of the looks were openly suspicious, and a few whispers bubbled up among the guests as Cherie continued. Vince, despite the unorthodox nature of his turning, has been an inavailable agent to me. Fearlessly hunting down threats, establishing diplomatic relations, going undercover, and traversing many parts of LA that are currently dangerous for our people. Recently, during a high-stakes meeting with the Golgotha in this very bar, he even risked his own life saving Heath, another agent in my employ, from gunfire. Joyce's dramatic retelling of events elicited fresh gasps and whispers, and more glances were thrown my way. And though he may no longer stand as a bridge between us and other houses, with compromise fallen by the wayside, let Vince's triumph, despite all the odds stacked against him, serve as inspiration and light to us in the darkest hour of our divided coven. The bar filled with thunderous applause, enthusiastic whistles piercing through the clapping. Even Jasper was applauding beside me, beaming encouragingly. But as the loud sounds of approval died down and Sherry slipped away after a small bow, my eyes suddenly met Heath's. He was gazing straight at me with a sort of intensity that I had never seen before. I couldn't tell what it stemmed from, but for a moment time seemed to slow down, as if we were caught in a movie. The platter in his hands began to tremble. Blood started overflowing from the glasses he held, splashing onto the floor. Rush over to him. I threw my weight forward, ready to dash to Heath's side, but before I could take another step, a deafening crash flooded the bar. Instantly the chatter fell silent and everyone's eyes turned towards the source. He froze in pure horror. At his feet was a pool of blood and broken glass, slowly spreading over the tile. One moment passed, then another and another. The stares focused on Heath weren't accusing or amused or even surprised. They were pitying. Oh, my poor boy. I feel so bad for him. Without a word, he ran straight past the crowd, heading for a door. No one stopped him as he slammed through the exit, disappearing outside. But soon enough, hushed whispers turned to baffled murmurs. And then, as if nothing happened, the loud chatter resumed just like before. Oh dear. Still gazing in the direction Heath had gone, Jasper let out a worried sigh, rubbing his cheek with hands. I think maybe you'd better go after him, Vince. He could use some grounding too. He gently motioned towards the door, nodding at me. You're right, I've got to go after him. Bye, Jasper. Be careful not to let him fade away from you. He murmured to me, his lips pressing solemnly together, then turned away. Turning away from the bar, I hurried towards the door. Outside, Heath was nowhere to be seen, but when I focused on following his scent, I realized he hadn't gone far. The path led me to an alley nearby, deserted and silent. Sure enough, as I stepped further inside, my boy. He was huddled on the ground beside the dumpster, hugging his knees to his chest and gently rocking back and forth. Beside him I glimpsed a shining needle and smelled something bitter. Eve, please tell me what's wrong. Instead of raising his head to look at me, he only lowered it further in a reclusive, self-loathing way of someone who didn't want to be seen. I don't think you should be here, Vince. I'll be fine, don't worry about me. Please don't push me away, Heath. I don't want to, Vince. Believe me, but I hate the thought of dragging you down even more. For a long few moments he went quiet, giving off such defensive atmosphere that I almost wondered if he'd refuse to talk to me. But at last he reluctantly shifted over a little, an unspoken acceptance for me to sit beside him. I lowered myself onto the cold asphalt, the icy touch seeping through my clothes. Heath kept his face turned away, as if still unable to look me in the eye. I can't believe this is happening, that you're here comforting me in the alley after I ran away from everyone. He exhaled sharply, a sound that didn't quite make it into a laugh. It's so pathetic and unbelievable. Even the worst soap operas have scenes that are better than this. It's not pathetic. Stuff like this happens to all of us. It would never happen to you. You, Marcus, Charisse, Randall, none of you ever do things like that. And even if you did, it would work out for you somehow. Bitterness leaked into Heath's voice as he clenched one hand, his pale knuckles looking ready to burst from his skin. Back there inside, for a moment, I felt like I didn't exist. No, that isn't it. I felt like it wouldn't matter whether I existed or not. He touched his face with trembling fingers as if to make sure his own body was still there. That if I disappeared tomorrow, no one would ever notice. What made you feel like that? You really have no idea. I think this, but this is also like, I don't want to step on his toe, but on the other hand, I think this is the most true. Because Charisse didn't say anything about you. He glanced at me for a split second, eyes wide and dismayed, before letting out a quite apologetic sigh. That's unfair of me, I shouldn't expect you to. I'm sorry. Despite his sheepish smile, I could still hear a trace of disappointment in his voice. I was never a good actor of it, but now every day of my life, all I do is pretend like I fit in. He nodded towards the direction of Saturnalia, though I had the sense he was referring to our whole society. They all know I'm not good at diplomatic work, or even the small tasks Charisse gives me. It's work she gives me out of pity because she knew my mother. She knew your mother? Charisse loved her movies and admired her elegant poise in interviews, so she hated the idea of my mother rotting away as she aged. It was Charisse who offered to turn my mother herself, so in more ways than one, she feels responsible for me. I couldn't tell if he was accusing her or defending her, but judging from the uncertain look in his eyes, he didn't know either. He paused for a moment, then leaning his head back against the cold concrete and staring at the sky. In the silence, I heard sirens echoing from somewhere far away, mingling with the dull hum of distant traffic. When every day is one long game of pretend, just pretending you belong, it gets a little hard sometimes. His gaze reluctantly shifted towards me, guilty and ashamed, as if he expected me to lash out at him at any moment. That's why, after I was turned, I started to drink and smoke, and it's why I filled my bathroom with syringes and junky blood, and it's why I'm so jealous of you, even though I love you, because everyone here sees you, and I'm like a ghost. Because I don't know what I'm supposed to be anymore. That isn't true, Heath. People care about you. I care about you. But what if I can't care about myself? If even I can't care, how can I expect anybody else to? If you can't love yourself, how the hell you can love anybody else? Can I get an amen to that? He gave me a hollow smile, lifting his shoulders in a lackluster shrug. I've always felt like I'm a different person to everyone I talk to. I can't help myself from wanting to please them, to make them love me, no matter how hard I try just to be myself. So I'm not sure who I am sometimes, and sometimes I wonder if there ever wasn't me. As Heath trailed it off into a tired silence, I realized how different he seemed from our first meeting. There was no coy smirk, no strategic push into my personal space, no theatrical tone in his voice, just a quiet desperation. But it's different when I'm with you, Vince. Everything you say and do, the way you act, it's so effortless, it's so natural. The shame slowly washed away from his face, his eyes taking on a reverent gleam. You give me hope and make me happy just by being yourself, and I can never get enough of it. It's better than any other feeling I can remember. Even if you can never love me the way I love you, I'm so happy I got to meet you. Despite his words, there was something resigned and distant in his smile. Should I say that? I don't know! I think the first one is the best one, because it suggests that we'll be there for him. Second one is just like, yeah, I love you, just, yeah, it's okay, it's like I love you. So it's not really the best. The third one is not true in his eyes, so I wouldn't be able to convince him to that. And the fourth one is, I think, it's a good question, but I don't think he would be able to answer me that particular question, so I will go with the first one. You'll figure out your path one day, and I'll be there to help you. You're right, I know you will be. sounded so self-assured, so happy that it was hard to doubt his words. Yet somewhere deep inside my gut, I felt a faint sense of unease. Vince. Emotion trembled in his voice, but I couldn't tell if he wanted to cry, laugh, or pull me into an embrace. His hand slowly drifted up to my cheek, fingers tracing across my skin as delicately as if he were cradling a glass doll. I wish I could tell you how I feel right now, but I don't think I could put it into words. Before I had a chance to reply, "Oh," suddenly leaned forward, covering my mouth with his. It was the hardest kiss he'd ever given me, raw and desperate, his fangs nearly piercing into my lip. The next moment it was over, but instead of pulling back, he stayed close. It was enough that our lips brushed together when we spoke. Right now, more than anything, I want to... Aww. This is toxic, because we are kind of like, you know, we're getting closer in a very bad situation for him. He was just shooting up by the freaking dumpster. He's super depressed. He's super, like, in a bad spot, so we shouldn't, but then we should because it's a video game. you know what I mean, right? Do you want to touch me? Yeah. I want to touch you. I want you to touch me. One of his hands slipped behind my head, his cold fingers tracing along the nape of my neck. He moved his body closer to mine, his arm falling to curl possessively around my waist, almost closing the distance between our lips once more. I'm a fucking drag for this guy. This is so sad. He uses me like he uses those janky stuff. I'm his heroine. His hero and his heroine. It's kind of sad. Vince, I need you. I need you so badly, but... A flash of hesitance froze his features, but the next moment he seemed to regain his resolve. We're numb to a lot of pain, which means we're numb to most pleasure too. And to feel what we do, I have to. Slipping one hand inside his jacket, he pulled out something to hold before me. In his palm rested two small objects. Ooh, shit! A fresh gleaming syringe and a small black bottle. It's a mixture. Some stimulants, some ketamine, just the right amount to make you feel something. Please, take it with me so I know you can feel it too. No, Heath. We don't have to take it to feel something. But I'm sorry, I can't do this without it. Guys, I'm gonna leave it like this. You guys help me. I don't know what to do. On one hand, I'm so curious, you know. I want to know. On the other, I know we shouldn't. So, you know, it's like in life, you know. The curiosity can lead you to dark places. But, well, it's a vampire game. Maybe we really should go to dark places. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's going to all end in pieces and we're going to die in pain, and he's going to die in pain, and we're going to be sad and all, and yeah. See you in the next one, guys. You tell me what you think about it.